next week.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about backings today. The backings of your quilts. And there's lots and lots and lots of different ways to do it. And we're just going to show you a few of our favorite ways. We're just going to show you a few different ways that you can piece it, different ways that you can put it together.
Fabrics I use and what to look out for when you're using said fabrics.
Maybe just even choosing a backing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when because I long arm, I don't really like my threads to show on the back. So I tend to find something neutral, except for when I don't. So disregard that whole comment.
Okay, so if you've got a light colored quilt top,
so yeah,
do you go with a light colored back so that you won't see white thread on the black fabric?
Generally, or a busy back. Where the thread,
or use a busy back that won't show the thread. Okay, that's what you guys were talking about this today, and I thought, what are you talking about? But yeah, there's particular reasons to choose
and it's
different things.
If you flip it over, you don't want to. Maybe you do want to see all the stitching, but sometimes if you're
on the back, I want to see it on the front.
If I'm not great at stitching, sometimes I don't want it seen. So, for instance, this quilt's going to be white, but I picked a solid black, so that'll be fun. So, but the reason I did it is because it is corduroy.
Ooh,
have you ever backed anything in corduroy?
I have not, but corduroy, man, that takes me back.
It's awesome. It's lightweight. It's
the corduroy I'm used to is much thicker.
But one thing you need to know about corduroy is it's got different naps. So if you are going to piece your backing, make sure your naps are going in the same direction.
So if you brush the fabric with your hand, it goes all the right direction.
Otherwise, it's going to look a little weird. One side will be shiny and the other side will be dull.
How often do you put corduroy on the back of your quilts?
More often than you would think.
Why? Because it's kind of soft?
Because we had it in and I liked it, and it was a little bit lighter.
Oh, okay.
So this is a quilt I made, 5 years ago, at least.
And it's not quilted yet?
Shocking, right? But my kids are, well, my oldest son, my other two tried, or piano players. And so I made this quilt for their piano teacher. Then she turned into a wiener and
you did not just say that.
I decided she didn't get the quilt. Sorry.
People have to be really special to receive quilts. We do agree on that.
This is a huge one, and it took me some time. I think it was
just keeps going.
Yeah, it's a big sucker. So it's all musical.
Corduroy definitely lasts a long time.
I like it because it's lightweight and soft, but it's got a little bit heavier fill.
Ooh.
So
we got another quilt over here. I'm looking at the quilt we're going to do for tomorrow night's comment sold.
Yeah, don't miss it.
So cute.
I'm funny.
There's no filter. We keep saying that about her, and she keeps telling us she has a filter.
I do, if you really knew what I was thinking. So when I am figuring out a quilt backing, we talked about this with Lorraine the other week or two ago. You get your measurement. So if your quilt's 62 by 74, you're going to add 6 to 8 inches, depending on your quilter. I usually do 6 just because I hate to waste fabric. So I would make it 68. And then I would do 68 plus 68 divided by 36. And that tells me how many yards I need. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if it's 72, I would add 6 to 8 inches. So 78. And I would be 78 plus 78 divided by 36. And that tells me how many yards I need.
Okay. So you make it sound much easier than it. That's a nice, simple way of doing it.
Pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I got licorice caught in my throat.
Yeah, this is another reason we shouldn't eat. Yeah. I really like that as a
I know, isn't it fun?
Right?
I actually was introduced to it before I worked here. We got some in and I used it.
You know, some would say you shouldn't use anything other than minky or regular cotton if that's what's on the front.
I don't care. I do what I want.
I disagree a little.
I love hearing the truth about the piano teacher. So the first one I did of minky, I was being stupid. And I matched selvage to selvage and then sewed it. Well, I caught some of my selvage and you could see it on my seam. You guys can't see this.
Oh, in the minky, for sure.
Minky, and well, just when you're dealing with any selvage, make sure you give yourself enough seam allowance. I'll usually run my
sometimes you need more than half. You'd run your 1/4 inch foot and then do it again.
No, I run my 1/4 inch foot along. Let's see if we can find something with the selvage.
So before you even sew the pieces together,
I will run my 1/4 inch foot line along here. Like my actual foot will go along here, just so I don't get any of the selvage caught in there or any of the
you're going to be
white.
a 1/4 inch in from
Or
that
you
selvage.
can pre-cut it before you go, but I'm lazy. I think it's easier to cut after. You get less stretch and stuff as you're sewing.
Oh, that's
Betty Jo,
true.
don't worry. She doesn't watch 3 at 3. I hope
She doesn't like you either.
No, she was a really nice lady.
Okay, so what type of batting would you use if you were doing a corduroy back?
Just a lightweight, probably 80/20.
Regular stuff?
On this, I'll probably do a bleached white, just because. Maybe I'll try bamboo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just because of the color of the
Yeah.
top.
So when you're doing corduroy or minky, they both have a nap. Make sure your nap is going in the same direction.
If you can't
You can
see
just brush it down,
difference,
brush it up, and make sure they're.
If you can't see the difference, get better lighting because there will be one.
Yeah, definitely. So there are 2 ways when you're dealing with a big, huge piece. So I've done the math. I need a 66 by 66 inch piece. What you can do is leave that all in one long piece and just fold it together and sew along the selvage.
Right sides together.
Right sides together, and then cut your fold at the bottom, if that makes sense. So
Here's
for
your back.
instance, this is your back. You're going to sew along here, all the way down.
Not here.
No. Okay, so pretend these are 2 pieces. It's 1 piece. You've folded in half. You've sewed all the way along there. You can actually get your scissors or your rotary cutter and just cut that off. And you don't have to deal with 2 pieces and matching it up.
You know what? I love that
I do
trick.
both ways.
I didn't know that trick for a long time.
Julia taught me that one.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because it was a discussion between Cindy and my mom.
Oh, really?
They all run in the same. Yeah, Jan said she loves her bamboo batting.
I haven't used it yet. It's
I haven't
expensive,
either.
But
It is a little bit. So yeah, what we ought to do a little bit of. Well, maybe we'll do that one time. We'll try out different battings and see what we like about it.
Okay, so for instance, in case that didn't make sense, I have a back here.
Marion says she loves that fabric. I like this fabric you got over here.
Thank you.
That will make a very cute back.
Yeah. So I've lined up my selvage all the way.
So selvages are at the top.
Uh-huh. And I'm just going to sew along the top, and then that leaves me with this big giant fold right here. And I will just straighten it out, and just cut it. Or, you can get your scissors just like wrapping paper. Oh, cut along the top there.
Yeah. And then you've got it. You're
then
done.
My back's done. After that, I do usually trim down my selvage and I press it. You don't have to trim down the selvage. Sometimes it just makes it a little bit bumpier when you're quilting it. So,
bamboo batting is just a new batting. Well, I don't know. How new is it?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
just batting made out of bamboo fibers.
Mm-hmm. And bamboo's
like
supposedly
bamboo
softer. I don't know. We're going to figure
Judy,
out.
why am I sewing them together? Because most quilts, so fabric generally off the bolt comes in 44 inch wide.
If
42 to 44.
you're lucky.
Yeah. So if I need to back a quilt that's 62 by 74, I'm going to need 2 widths of fabric. So I get my width this way, but I'm going to need length. So I will get section 1, section 2, sew them together. And then that will make my thing like 66 by 84-ish. So I'm going to have about 10 inches of waist, but that's okay.
Well, you can take it off and put it in your scrap stuff, right?
Yeah. And Marion, yes, I do. I do piece backings with different fabrics all the time.
Yeah. Didn't you have one of those to show?
That is slightly different, but I will get 2 different fabrics and sew them together if you want.
Oh yeah.
So on that, instead of this and cutting this, you would just put your 2 pieces together and sew them off. What I was going to show you is this is gingham, and so
you got a print.
I've got a print that is going to be weird, but there is a way to match it. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to try.
Better than not at all.
So what I'll do, instead of lining it up, I'm going to figure out where I want this to be. So I'm sewing on the white. I'm going to match the white up so that when I do my 1/4 inch seam, I think I got to figure this out. When okay. This
and
is
you're still going to sew it like you are.
Yeah,
like
but I might have to
it.
offset it so that my ginghams match.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So I can either put it on there, right, the white to white, and then when I open it up this way,
Here, I'll be the
In
seam. I'll be the
in
seam.
my brain, this works. No, just watch your hands. So if I
Get out of the way.
if I manage to do that correctly and catch my seam right in the middle of that, when I open it up, I need to come this way. Yes. Wait, I can't tell what I'm even looking at. Your screen's too little. So then it will kind of match. It is going to stretch and shift a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, but I prefer that rather than to just going with it and ending up with something weird like that.
Especially if it's not 100% straight.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's, yeah.
The fussier you are, and I would pin this and I would start at the top and work my way down. That's how, I mean, any of you that have done garment sewing, you match your prints as you're going. Right there, I could really just find my seam to be that way, but you're going to want to figure out what keeps the pattern going and then
do it.
Pin it that way and sew it and press it open.
I love that.
Okay,
I
so
love
that's
that.
one thing you want.
Stripes, ginghams, anything that you have to match a pattern to.
And I try to avoid ginghams, but I just thought this was perfect.
I was going to say, and then when you're going to pick your back fabric to begin with, you could always just avert from any of those things.
It's a show and tell,
but
with where did this one go?
It's up a little higher.
Here we go. It's a show and tell of unfinished quilts.
That's what we brought today. Jenny brought them.
So that brown gingham's going on the back here.
It's
and it is
so
part
cute.
of the line, I believe.
It's what?
No, it's not. So I don't know.
She doesn't
Oh,
always.
it is there. It's right there.
Oh, it is. I'm like, you don't always match your back. I mean, the backings, we pick backings for quilts that aren't part of the line all the time.
And this is a perfect example of a lighter backing. Like, I don't know if you're going to want to take this out on the grass, but for your house, it's probably fine.
Yeah. The corduroy would be great for like a picnic blanket.
I made a camping quilt with.
We don't sell the corduroy. So
we used to.
We did.
We can probably get it back
somewhere in. But yeah.
So that's how you do like a gingham. And I think I had to do that on. Did we do gingham here? We did.
We did. Okay.
Let's see how well I did.
You should have checked this before we got on live,
Oh,
right?
I tried.
No, why would she do that?
Where is it? This is quite the demo.
Okay.
Can you find my seam?
You know what? That's just it. Can you find it? Because
I can see it.
it's there. It's there, but
Right here.
oh, that is not where I thought it was. How's that?
I did pretty good. It shifted a little bit on me.
You did a pretty dang good job there,
Thank you.
Jenny.
I was in a hurry too. Spot my seam right there. So you can make gingham work. You just have to be
a little more fussy.
Yeah, and really, I probably made my whites too big there. But once you quilt it and wash it, it's going to crinkle up. So don't be so fussy that it's like bringing on an panic attack.
Well, and Suzanne says that she would never use gingham or obvious linear pattern for the back because she quilts on her domestic machine. And you'd have a heck of a time, yeah, for sure, getting them all perfectly aligned. Yeah. But for those who just can't stand not going with the cute gingham on the back,
yeah,
you can. You know, when I first got married and I'd never really sewn much domestic anything, I bought a tablecloth, and I didn't think anything of it. I just bought what I thought I would need for the table, and I got home and I had to piece it like you would a back. And it was just a pattern all over the place.
So you bought fabric to make a tablecloth.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I miss that part?
Yeah. You bought a tablecloth.
I bought a tablecloth. I
What
bought
does that
fabric
mean?
to make a tablecloth. Anyway, I spent probably 2 hours just lining that up. You can't see the seam. I had to save that tablecloth. Blah, 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 blah.
No, you're fussy.
Oh, I am a little fussy.
You can actually pull that off.
Yeah.
Not so much. Okay, so let's
Betty.
just say sometimes your quilts get big, like your king and queen size quilts. They're like 108 by 108. Well, you can't do just 2 strips of fabric. It's not going to be enough. So you'll have to do 3. Or if you're like at a 96 and you just don't want to buy another 3 yards of fabric, this is what I do.
Because that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't
like
wanna
laundry.
Hey, at least it smells like laundry and not a pet.
And I might actually have not bought enough back on this. I can't remember because, I buy things and then don't finish them for years. So what
you've got a big section of back.
Got a big section of back.
Is this the width of the fabric? Yeah, right here. Okay.
So actually, yeah, I think this. Oh, no. So this is probably width of fabric. And then this is another length. And I've pieced it in the middle.
Okay.
But it wasn't quite wide enough. So I used leftovers from the front of the quilt and just kind of made a strip all the way down.
Okay, that is really, really cute.
Thank you.
I was thinking of the ones where you do this kind of thing with the fabrics in your quilt all over the back. This is artful.
This is easier.
Yeah, it is.
So here's the front, and it was like, I think it's a free pattern on Moda Bake Shop. And it took like a layer cake and a jelly roll.
Oh, yeah. Very cute.
It was really cute. But I
love
had quite
that.
a bit left over. So, and that was just kind of, I made it up as I went. I cut my back, put it on the thing, saw how much I needed to fill in, and just made it.
And just strip, fix that.
That section.
That's one I think I would use a lot of. In fact, if I've got something that's just a little too wide.
If you're not in a hurry.
Right.
Because it did take me
to piece
it took me
parts of it.
Well, an extra few hours.
And I've seen, yeah, like we were talking about, you could just take 5 big blocks of fabric from your quilt and put it together. So it does add character. I think that's really cute.
Yeah,
I like it.
It almost makes it seem like you have 2 quilts. Like if you want something a little more plain but fun.
It's reversible.
Yeah,
nice. Marion says she never has leftover blocks to use on the. My problem is back before I measured anything, I'd always buy more fabric because I just wanted more.
I didn't have leftover blocks, but I had leftover chunks of layer cake. There's always waste.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did. Yeah, the blocks were a little big, and I wasn't making extra of those. They were a bugger.
Or if you just know you're going to have to piece the back, and you want to do something like
that.
And
I might have bought fat quarters of this line as well.
So that you had a little bit.
This is kind of my Christmas decorative. I have stockings that I purchased all the fabric for like 6 years ago. Guess how many I've made?
That was a good guess, right?
That was a good guess.
Because I'm trying to think. I think I've done the same
thing. We'll get to it later.
I actually made the stockings because they had to go in the shop. So
I remember those. They were cute.
Finished stockings.
So that's kind of like all I have.
Do you guys have any questions about backings?
Oh, Anne wants to see the house quilt again.
She's trying to be more of a scrappy girl, but it's tough. I used to not be so much, and actually I just got rid of a whole garbage bag full of scraps. Because after a while, you keep adding to it. So
here's the house quilt. This was a Lella Boutique from probably 4 years ago. Like I think it was Farmer's Daughter was the fabric line. And this was just one of the patterns she had that went with it.
It's really cute. I like that
It's really
floral.
cute.
You know, Lella Boutique.
I pretty much will buy anything she does. And speaking of which, we just got her whole Christmas line in. Yeah. I was like, okay, I need a yard of everything.
Everything. It's so cute.
There's like 40 SKUs, so that's expensive. So maybe half yard.
Yeah, that house quilt. The colors in that are really, really pretty. So there was a question on there. Where did you get the free Christmas pattern again?
It was Moda Bake Shop. Let me see if I can find it and link it in the comments. Sometimes to tie hide threads on the back. Do you mean by like tying a quilt?
So if you did a tie quilt, is that what you're referring to?
If you're referring to like when you're long arm and you have your threads, I actually just do a little back stitch there, and then I don't have to worry about pulling them through and hiding them.
But if you're tying your quilts and you're trying to hide things, I know there are those who don't like the ties, but they still want to be able to just tack it all together. And so they get a really big long needle and go up and down and up and down, up and down 3 times. And then on the 3rd time, you run the needle in between the sandwich so that you're not getting either one. And then you move to the next, maybe it's this far apart and you're just doing tacks. For a while there, people didn't want to tie quilts anymore. They were like, we're good. We like a different look.
I really like the quilted.
You could do it without.
They're not as soft and snuggly. Tiffany's asking about where you put the label. Do you put labels on your quilt?
On the back.
I should, but I never do. But I would probably just make a label and add it after.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have an embroidery machine, you can just embroider a cute little patch.
You can probably catch it in your binding if you want, and then I would just like do a little whip
hand
stitch
tack
and tack it down
on, which I would hand tack it anyway. Honestly, I wish my grandma had done quilt labels in her handwriting.
That would be
on
cute.
The back of her quilts. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should do some quilt labels where I just write it down instead of a cute little. I don't know. Maybe. What was that matter?
It's just every time we move, it shakes.
It is a little shaky today.
Patricia's asking if you have a directional print. on the back. How much extra fabric do you need? So it depends
Rule of
on
thumb.
the direction. We were actually just with the Riley Blake rep today and buying backs for some panels, and we all loved this print, but the back was going to be, it was like little bathing suits going this way, but the back was going to be this way. So the bathing suits would have been hanging like that. You just need to figure out which direction you want it to go. So if you're making a huge quilt, you usually run your selvages this way. If you're just making a throw, your selvage runs this way. So if you have a directional print and it's running this way, it's fine if that's how your quilt is working. Is this making sense to you?
I want you to explain the selvages. Why does it make a difference, smaller versus larger on the selvages?
What do you mean?
Well, you were just saying on a larger quilt, my selvages run like this. And on a smaller, they run like this.
You'll get your best use of fabric. If you're doing a 108 wide quilt, you generally run lengthwise, and you'll run 3 length.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See
that cute little clothesline swimsuit thing?
Mm-hmm.
I would have just turned it the other direction.
Yeah, it would have been fine, but I know you would have gotten calls in customer service like, this fabric's going the wrong direction.
I would have.
So those are things you just have to pay attention to when you're picking stuff. But as long as your back is running the same direction, and then just pay attention when you're sewing the pieces together that you open them up and they're not upside down.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want it to run this way, make sure your direction works that way. If you want it to run this way, make sure it works that way.
And there's not really a rule of thumb as to how much extra you would buy for directional.
Well,
like you're in the quilt shop and there's a whole line and you choose the directional back and you know you're going to need 3.5 yards for your backing. Do you add an extra half a yard for that?
As long as it's running this way, you should be fine. If you decide to go it this way, then you're going to have to use your length and buy that 2 times instead of your width. I usually buy my width twice.
Okay.
If it's under 84
Mm-hmm.
inches.
Okay.
But if it's over 84 inches, I do lengthwise. Because most quilts aren't 88 inches wide until you get into the big ones.
Right.
But if you do have a quilt that's 80 inches wide, you want to buy the length because it'll probably be 100 long.
Yeah.
And then it just saves you a little bit of money.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Jules says, hi ladies, question please. So I finished piecing my first quilt, but I have a lot of bulk on the back and I want to have it quilted. But I think the bulk will not come out smooth. Do you have any advice or videos?
I would recommend pressing.
Press
with steam and starch. And if you have a clapper.
I know. The other day I was working on a project and I was like looking for any wood block I could come up with because I don't have the clapper.
Oh, that's smart.
And
just go get a 2x4.
Those aren't really hanging around in my craft room. So I ended up wishing I had one. I did use the strip stick though to do my seams. It was wonderful.
So yeah.
So what would your
Jules, I would just say make sure all your seams are kind of going in the same direction. If you do have like a pinwheel with a bunch of bulk in the middle, just press that really well. If you have a clapper or even there are things you can pound.
Oh, really?
Have you seen those? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And then just warn your quilter that, hey, I might have some bulky seams.
And it's your first quilt. So, you just next time you go to put it together, this is why sometimes, when you're quilting, you're going to press the seams to one side. When I have a lot of joining points, I start to press some of them open. So as you do more of that, you'll learn the tricks to keeping those junctions a little less
But it's
bulky.
amazing what a hot iron and some water and some steam can do to smooth everything out.
Yeah. Marion, use a rubber.
Yep,
rubber
meat
hammer.
2x4. You guys think we're funny.
Hey, I have a meat pounder.
I have seen people use rubber hammers on their things
on
so
their
to kind of whatever.
Oh, that's
smooths
funny.
It out.
That's funny. So, any other questions? Flatter is a good one too.
Make that go away. Sorry, we're just reading comments.
When you pick out different fabrics for doing your backings, are you looking for a particular kind of print? Or do you really care? What are some of your guys' favorites?
I tend to care. Like, I don't know. It depends. Like with work, a lot of times it's if we're sitting on a bolt that isn't moving, I'll pick that for a back. Or if we had a lot of it. So I picked this yellow gingham because we had a few extra bolts as opposed to all the ones on the front. And I like yellow. But you can have a lot of fun with your backs.
Yeah.
You can be as plain as you want, or you can use some fun, bright prints that you might not normally put on a quilt, or a huge print that isn't going to be
Business
utilized.
in the front, party on the back.
Yeah. Like I should have brought my pineapple quilt in. Like,
oh,
people
that
die
has been
over
very
that back.
popular.
Like,
yeah.
we used to hang it in the shop and we had to stop because people were like, I want that backing. I want that backing. And it's just big florals that you wouldn't normally use. And I actually didn't think it was going to sell. So that's why I picked it for the backing and like, oh, I'll help move this bolt along.
Move this through.
And little did I know it's
like, because what you touch turns magic.
I guess.
Yeah. And hey, Jules, congratulations on finishing your first quilt.
Yeah,
That's
good
awesome.
job.
Yeah. I want
Cordy-
pictures.
Cordy says she's used a 2x4.
I love it.
Oh, that's Betty Jo.
Get a 2x4 and a hammer, a rubber mallet.
Get a little stress relief while you're at it.
Would you ever do a double-sided quilt?
So my sister-in-law is making a t-shirt quilt right now for my niece. And the front is her high school t-shirts, like she's on the soccer team, and the back is her club t-shirts. So I told her,
Very
so she
cool.
wants me to quilt it, and I was like, all right.
How?
I told her, so she's gonna just make her back border like 6 inches bigger than her front border. I'm gonna load it on my machine and do my best.
Well, t-shirts are a little trickier.
They are,
but
she doesn't really know what she's doing, but she's quite good. Like the first quilt she ever tackled was a t-shirt quilt, but it was like a bordered one, and she brought it to me, and I was like,
dang girl,
maybe you should teach this class. So I married into a very smart family.
I love it. I love it.
Just figure things out. So that's what I would recommend. If you are doing a double-sided quilt, you do need to put like some type of border around it. So your quilter or when you're sandwiching has something to visually line it up with, because otherwise it's a little tricky and it's probably not going to be perfect. So just know that going in.
I like what you did on this backing too. You can do a more elaborate version of what she did and have it be a lot of backing, but then some piecing on it as well.
Or you could do like a big block in the middle and border it out, and then it's a little easier to line up.
Yeah, I love using the fun fabric for that. Okay, somebody had a question about, I just picked the new one.
Cute.
Okay, what kind of binding would you recommend? Now, binding, we are always looking for certain fabrics for bindings, not because it matters, but because some make cuter bindings than others.
Well, if you ever notice anything I make,
she loves black and white stripe. That one's got the same thing.
It doesn't have to be black and white stripe, but
here's red and black
stripes.
Stripes are really cute.
More stripes.
Oh my goodness, you do love red stripes.
Black and white.
I mean, yeah, black and white stripes.
This one was a cute, like Kimberbell gingham.
I love those. The plaids are really cute.
Sometimes things that aren't on the bias but look like they are fun to do. If you do
smaller prints can be, a fun one because you see the diversity between it.
Red plaid that's on the bias.
I love that.
So I usually find either something I love inside of the quilt or if I want to pull something out and go that way, or I find a stripe.
So like on this one right here. Ooh, you better grab that because I'm making a mess.
Which one?
The one you just had.
This one.
Yeah. So you've got all these fabrics right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of those are going to lend themselves to binding a little bit more than others. Rather than choosing this one, which you could choose, I would choose the polka dot, or I would choose this one. Even the floral one would be okay. This is personal preference. I happen to like the more of a darker binding, or a high contrast, so that it gives a visual stop to the quilt. But that's just me.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want the binding to notice, and I'll do like a little volume on a low volume.
Yeah.
But I generally make it pop. See, look, here's another thing I've used for binding. This Bonnie and Camille bundle, I would probably use the navy binding.
Diagonal stripes are really cute on
the orange. I love me a multicolor. I don't see one in there. But.
You know what I'm seeing more and more of too are these scrappy bindings.
Mm-hmm.
Like piecing.
That's actually what I used to do.
Piecing your scraps together and then using those as binding. So
sometimes it's fun to find a binding with lots of colors in it. Like this only has 2. But if you can find like a small floral, that's a lot of fun too. Like say a navy blue background with a whole bunch of little flowers on it is kind of fun too.
Because they have the littler prints, and so you kind of see the
And all those
can-
colors
Mhm.
pull out the stuff for your quilt. You really can't go wrong. But I'll audition a few before I go.
So, afraid to wash colorful print. I heard this just recently, and I used it. It worked really, really well. But you throw a color catcher in. You can buy 2, no matter what. You can buy these color catchers and you throw it in. You wash your
They're just Shout, aren't
multicolored.
they?
I think that's the brand. I think it's the brand.
The only
They work better than I thought they would.
The only thing I've really ever had bleed on me is red. I actually just noticed
Red?
some in this. And that was maybe because I left it and my black kind of bled through too.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably,
Washed it and then just kind of left it in the washer a little too long, or what?
I probably didn't use the color catcher.
Okay. Yeah.
But one other thing, if you have a high efficiency washer, there's not a lot of water to dilute your quilt. So I think you can, I don't have one. Do you have a high efficiency washer? Can you add water to it?
Mm-hmm.
So just add like an extra gallon or 2 of water, and then what you're washing isn't such a diluted.
Yeah, it's not so condensed.
Diluted is what we want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting this backwards.
Less fat, but well, and the other thing,
you know what I'm trying to say. Give me a thumbs up.
Once you've washed it and you know everything worked out just fine, then you can set it with vinegar. So
yeah.
But
flannel, absolutely, that red's gonna bleed every time.
Yeah,
doesn't matter if it's high quality or not. So throw in some color catchers, wash it in cold, throw in some vinegar.
Yeah,
throw in some colored safe bleach.
The high efficiency washers, there are some tricky ones. The one that I got is actually one that I can add extra water because I was all about doing a top loader. So I got a front loader that you can add extra water to.
I have a Maytag from 1995.
Nice. Mine's a Maytag too.
My mom got it when I was in high school, and then she got a high efficiency one and put that one away, and I took it when I got married. We're going on like 22 years with that sucker.
That's awesome. And this has nothing, I mean, this isn't quilting business or anything like that, but
I'm going to cry when that washer
the
goes.
high efficiency washers, those front loaders, if you give it an extra rinse cycle and use half the soap, you'll find you like it better. But yeah,
just be aware if you're washing a quilt in a high efficiency washer, there's less water in there. So yeah, your colors tend to